What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It is time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I am your host, TJ Zwarich, and we got a very fun episode today. There's no pressing content. There's no TV shows. D23 hasn't happened yet at the time of recording, and so next week we'll be recapping that. But as of now, we're just kind of chilling. And so we're bringing back the draft. It's MCU Villain Draft Day, and joined as always by my... Did I introduce myself as TJ Zwarich? I can't remember if I did. But joined as always by my good buddy and co-host Adam Blevins. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good. I'm tired, but I'm very happy that we, can finally pump the brakes on like content analysis for a little bit and just do some mindless drafting. And this is going to be like, I love drafts. This is going to be so much fun. And then as soon as this is over, I'm going to see Deadpool and Wolverine for a third time. I've got a good friend who's been out of the country for 2 weeks. Like since the movie came out, he left like the day before it came out, and he just got back a couple of days ago. And one of the first things he wanted to do was go see Deadpool and Wolverine. So we're going to go do that tonight in a couple hours after we record the podcast. So I'm clocked out of work for the night, and I'm ready to just enjoy the rest of my evening talking about and watching nerd stuff.
Yeah, that makes me so happy. That is a lot of fun. And we couldn't just do a two-man draft. Two-man draft wouldn't be fun. And so we brought in 2/3 of the Comic Corner crew, the best backup hosts for the Agents of Fandom podcast in the game. Anytime I'm not here, Fat Thor steps in and absolutely crushes it for me. Anytime Adam's not here, Damon steps in and absolutely crushes it for him. You know them as the co-hosts of the Comic Corner. First up, Damon Gray. How you doing, Damon?
I'm doing dandy. It is a lovely, not 95-degree day today, so I am just enjoying and not melting here in this office.
I think I've only been asked to fill in as a backup on the Comic Corner once, and so I feel like this hasn't been a very reciprocated relationship yet. But I'm waiting for more
twice,
invites.
Actually.
You'll
it
see.
Was twice.
Yeah, but I invited myself one of those. I invited myself one of those. Joining us as well, the man with such a great name, TJ. You know him better as Fat Thor. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. I'm excited to talk nerd stuff, and that's funny the way you say that. It sounds like me and Damon are just like variants of you and Adam. Whenever you guys can't make it, Damon steps in for Adam, I step in for TJ, so it works out perfectly.
I mean, we even have the same name. It works well. You're our more comic savvy, more facial haired variants.
But you're the more handsome one, let's be honest here.
Too kind. We'll see if that camaraderie and the love spills over when we start drafting, or if that turns a little more antagonistic in the theme of the villains we will be drafting today. But before we get to that, make sure you are subscribing to the Agents of Fandom on socials, at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, at Agents of Fandom everywhere else, Instagram, Facebook, Threads, all those good places like that. And if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Make sure you're subscribed to the Agents of Fandom wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a nice little 5-star rating on Spotify and Apple, a nice little review on Apple as well. That does wonders for the pod. And before we start talking about the draft, before we switch from friends to competitors, let's have a little bit of what you're watching, because Adam, you have finally made your way through all of the recaps and reviews for the crazy summer television slate that we had. What are you watching just for you now?
Well, just recently I started, I almost kind of didn't know what to do with myself when I wasn't, working. It seems like for 3 months now, if I wasn't writing articles for Collider or something, then I immediately had to like transition to either watching Dark Matter, The Boys, or House of the Dragon and get to working on that. And then the last couple of weeks, it's been nice when I stop, if I'm in between, I'm like, wow, I can actually just sit here and I don't have something pressing waiting on me immediately. So I almost haven't known what to do with myself. But the only thing that I've really gotten into watching is the something that I do like about once a year, usually around the same time, sometime during the summer. I rewatch all the Mission Impossible movies. I'm a huge I'm a huge Tom Cruise fan in general. I love action movies, and that's like the bet. If you love Tom Cruise and you love action movies, there's like no better pairing in the world than Mission Impossible. I love those movies so much. So I'm working my way through a rewatch of those right now. I think I'm on the third one. I just started like late last week, but that's really about it. Right now, I'm kind of just I rewatched. I don't know what struck me. I rewatched Black Widow the other day. I don't know why that's such a rewatchable MCU movie to me. Like I know it's got its flaws. The third act's a little gets a little wonky, but I love that movie so much. I love rewatching it. It's such a fun movie to me. But that's pretty much it. The Mission Impossible movies and Black Widow. So I guess I've been in a little bit of a spy mood kick lately. I don't know what's going on there.
I've been watching The Gentleman on Netflix. Interesting show where I saw it had some Emmy noms there, and my wife and I were looking for a new show to start. And so, fun little show about a duke who finds out when he inherits his title and his house that there is a massive weed farm underneath it, and they're partnered with them, and he's trying to navigate his way through. It's a pretty interesting story so far. And then I had been playing a fair amount of Marvel Rivals in the beta with Damon and with Rumit, our fellow agents, and we had a lot of fun. We did not realize that the beta closed the very next day after we got our first 3-person squad. And if I had realized that, I probably would have tried to play it for about 2 or 3 hours longer. And so very disappointing that one was gone. It's pretty much just Marvel character Overwatch, but it's a lot of fun. As soon as you get some more maps, a couple more characters, it's going to be even better. But I am looking forward to this game coming up because squadding up for some Marvel Rivals very much felt like some 9th and 10th grade, Call of Duty, Halo, squadding up with the fellas and the friends and playing. And it was a lot of fun with just maybe, a lot less idiots on the live with saying a few less slurs because that was so prevalent in the 2000s when you were on Xbox Live, but a little less of that. I'm pretty sure someone still told Damon to commit some self-violence on himself, but it was more tame than back in the day. Anyways, Damon, what have you been watching?
Not much. Gonna be honest, I haven't really been watching much. I've been trying to catch up on some things that I've been missed out on over the last couple of weeks just because I've been so busy with other things. Like you mentioned, we've been playing Marvel Rivals for a little bit, and that was a whole lot of fun when we were able to. The fun thing about that game is when you have like a game like Overwatch and you're worried about some characters being overpowered, it's always a good thing when everyone in a game is overpowered. So that means nobody's overpowered. So it's a lot of fun, and TJ knows, like, we had one game where we don't know if we were going up against 9-year-olds or what, but man, when you're winning like that, there is no better feeling than having like 35 kills and 0 deaths. Magical time that game in particular was. But I haven't really been watching much. I have been reading the new Avatar: The Last Airbender book that came out, which is all about my favorite Avatar Roku. And honestly, I'm going to be completely blunt. This is so far one of my favorite Avatar books, but it also further downs on my point that this guy was kind of an idiot. Kind of a lot of an idiot. You get a lot of Gyatso, so if you're into like seeing what a young Gyatso is like, there's some really fun things in there. And it also asks and answers a question that I've seen some people throw around on the internet of a what-if Avatar scenario that we didn't know about with Roku in particular, and it's a cool little tidbit.
And Damon has a great article up on agentsofandom.com of why Roku is the worst Avatar. So make sure you check that one out because he's got some thoughts. He's got some thoughts. That was a fun TikTok when you threw that one up there. And all the people were like, screw you, we love Roku. And then the other half were like, yes, this guy's an idiot. Good times. Fat Thor, what have you been watching or reading these days?
Oof, I'm similar to Adam. After House of the Dragon ended, I don't know what to do with myself. I feel like I got nothing. So this is like super funny, but I've been throwing on Pluto TV, and they have like a Dog the Bounty Hunter channel. So I've been watching some Dog. Caught up with Lord of the Rings. I'm getting ready for Rings of Power season 2, so watched all that, and I've basically been living in Middle Earth for the past couple weeks, just reading the books, getting ready, and yeah, like I said, Dog and Lord of the Rings. That's been my life the last week.
I forgot to mention, but I'm also like 2/3 of the way through my Star Wars Jedi Survivor playthrough. It took a pretty big pause when College Football 25 came out and Marvel Rivals was in beta. I was focusing on that a little bit more, but now that I've kind of gotten sick of college football a little bit, won a few national championships, won a few Heismans, and Marvel Rivals is out of beta and closed it off. I've swapped back into Jedi Survivor mode. But it's time for the MCU Villains Draft. There have been some wonderful, wonderful villains over the years in the MCU. There's also been some forgettable ones. There have been movies that have been enhanced by the performance of the villains and have taken the movie over the top to become among the very best superhero movies that exist, largely because of how strong the villain was. Others were very great, very fun movies that you kind of forget who the villain was in them because they were very underwhelming and maybe held the movie back from becoming top tier MCU. We're fresh off a movie in Deadpool and Wolverine, which we will avoid major spoilers for in case anybody hasn't seen it yet, where they had two villains. One, Mr. Paradox and Matthew McFadden, and the other, Cassandra Nova with Emma Corrin. Two absolutely incredible performances by the actor. Maybe the motivations, the written aspects of the character, the motivations maybe left a little more to be desired, but the performances themselves were absolutely incredible. And so that inspired the MCU Villains Draft. For the purpose of the draft, the rules, we will say this character doesn't have to be, it's not a black or white situation. They don't have to be fully bad and not good. They have to have been a villain in one of the MCU movies to be drafted. So that means some characters that may have been on the hero side at times could be drafted, but they have to have been a villain in an MCU movie or TV show. We are sticking with very specifically MCU, no multiverse shenanigans. And in addition to that, only one version of a character can be drafted. If you draft a character, you get that's just the main version you get. We're not doing additional variants, etc., etc., etc. Any questions before we begin, Damon? You're muted. You're still muted.
You're still muted.
Jeez Louise. MCU, as in Marvel Studios, made the project.
Yes.
Cool.
Marvel Studios made the project. So
Earth
that means
616.
Earth 616, Marvel Studios made the project, and that means Marvel Studios has to have made the project, not Marvel Netflix, etc., etc. Not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I know, that hurts me. There were some great villains in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but where that means we're not going with them having done that either. But I think that basically covers the set of rules. The draft order was randomized by myself before we began. It is Fat Thor with the first pick, myself with the second pick, Adam third, and Damon fourth. Damon's acting like he's upset about that, but there's such a big wealth of villains here in the MCU that the fourth pick I actually don't think is so bad here. I feel like second might even be the worst spot, and that's where I am. So I'm feeling down on my own spot here. We each will draft 4 characters. A total of 16 villains will be drafted. Without further ado, Fat Thor, you have the first pick.
I mean, is it really a question who I'm going to pick? Thanos. Got to pick Thanos first.
Yeah, that's the easiest number one pick in like draft pick history. It has to be.
I would say I messed with TJ earlier about another pick, but I don't even want to joke with this. I'm securing Thanos first.
I didn't know if it was sarcasm, if it was real. I was like, hey, you got the first pick. And he's like, all right, I got this guy. And I was like, what do you mean? We're not drafting right now. We're going to be doing it on the podcast.
The way you texted it was just like your first pick. So I'm like, oh, I guess like we're picking them already. And then you're like, no, we're doing it live. I'm like, so what do you mean my first pick? I don't know where my head's at today, dude.
I was just, yeah, it was a funny miscommunication. I enjoyed it. Thanos is off the board, the obvious first pick, the main villain in the Infinity Saga, the main character in Avengers Infinity War, which many consider to be the very best movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. A strong first pick. And this is why I felt like 2 was tough, because there is a large conglomerate of great, great villains I could go with here. And so I think I'm going to go with the one that, as I was watching this movie, was my personal favorite. I think they're a great choice in terms of getting some votes. I think they were very imposing, and they were one of the first people that really hammered home the idea of a strong villain in the MCU is really one who poses some good ideas and ones who thinks they are right. And they had a lot of good ideas, but they didn't necessarily go about their ideas the right way. And so I'm going with Michael B. Jordan's Eric Killmonger as my pick, number 2 overall in our MCU Villains Draft. Passing it to you, Adam, for 3. Any comments on the pick?
No, that I knew. I mean, like, it's like we talked about before we went on the air. There's like 5 to 6 in that 1A tier. I think that we're all going to work our way through pretty quick. Like by the start of the second round, the top 5 to 6, universally will be gone. Killmonger was number 4 on my board, but again, that's because Thanos is 1AA plus like that. He was going first, no matter who, I think, by any of us that picked. But like 2 through 5 to 6, I'm looking right now are kind of all like I could have taken Killmonger too, and I wouldn't have been upset with that. So I think that was a really, really good. I think it was a really good pick. I think any of these next picks are all going to be good. But it's tough because I was actually hoping that you would pick the 2 that I like. I have 2 and 3 that I am really have been stuck between since you told me we were doing this, or like told me that I had the second pick, and I was hoping that you would pick either 2 or 3 to make this easy on me. But I have to keep on brand for myself because I have talked for years about how much I have mentioned this person as my personal favorite, like outside discounting Thanos, there's other solo movies, like my favorite MCU villain. I think this person gives, I think, the best villain performance with a bullet by far, not even close. And this person also only lost because, as Hulk said, Big Monster was there in the end. So I'm taking Hela off the board with my second pick. I think Cate Blanchett's performance as Hela I will stand on for until somebody else comes along and maybe does better. I still think is the best villain performance that we've ever gotten, and one of the best performances in MCU, history in general. 2-time Oscar winner, I believe 6 or 7-time Oscar nominee, Cate Blanchett, in one of the best MCU movies, Thor Ragnarok. So, yeah, I'm taking Hela off the board. That was tough though because I'm not going to say who my other one was, which I'm sure they will be gone in the next couple of picks as well. But I can't not, if Hela's there for me, I can't not take her because I don't feel good about her being there in 3 more picks.
That's one of the things with this draft is there are so many great people to choose from. It's a snake, right? So Damon's got back-to-back now. If his mind is different in a different spot than where yours is, there's a good chance you could have that character coming back here. So I like it. Hela is a very strong choice. She's I didn't make a list of 1 through etc. I kind of have just tiers. These are my tier 1 villains. These are my tier 2. Hela's definitely in my tier 1. Damon, what do you got for your back-to-back picks here? Who do you got for your first round pick, and then lead us off in the second round?
I'm not going to lie, y'all. I'm blown away. I am blown away that Loki hasn't been picked yet.
That was my other pick. Yeah.
We're talking about the Marvel villain that has actually been there from the very beginning. We're not talking about a guy who showed up for 2 movies. This is a guy who's been there from the very beginning, all the way to most recently, where yes, he has kind of embraced a little bit of a hero role by the end, but he is the original Avengers villain. Without him in that movie, we wouldn't have any of this. So, Loki's gotta be my first pick. I didn't think I was gonna get Loki out of this. I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even have him on my list because TJ told me I was fourth. I'm like, well, there's 3 people here. I'm not. So I'm blown away that Loki dropped this far, because I was going into this as an approach of, I'm not in this to get the vote. I'm in this to be right. So I'm going to continue that with my next pick at the very least. Someone who probably could have fell very, very far, and I do not care. Because I have to step into the world of a what if. I have to step into a bit of a creative world for this villain. And this is the only villain I feel like has accidentally done everything they said they were going to do and won by losing. And that's Strange Supreme. He's
that
the
could have
only
been
one. I could have got that so far at the very end, but I just wanted
that
to now.
could have been
Pick
your
4.
last pick. Nobody was going there. Here you are with some fighting words, and I'm taking the lead in this draft because I got Loki. I can't believe he slipped. And you get Strange Supreme with your second round pick?
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
No other character. No other character. We just had a whole movie about something. And this character was able to pull that accomplishment off by himself. Oops.
All right, Strange Supreme, second round pick. If
The most
it's
powerful
absolutely-
Strange.
Maybe the most powerful Strange. Definitely the most powerful Strange, but we'll see what Secret Wars happens with our Strange and how things go with him. But Strange Supreme is off the board. Thanos, Killmonger, Hela, Loki, and Strange Supreme. Adam, who do you got with your second round pick?
This is tough because I'm in a similar boat now where 1 through 4 are gone for me, but 5 and 6 are my last, in that top tier, and they're both, they're both 2 of the little T's too. 2 Phase 4 villains in 5 and 6 right here for me that I think are still 2 of the best that we've gotten, and I'm kind of vamping right now as I look at this list and try to make up my mind because I can't. I'm stuck on what I want to do because these are both 2 good that I was hoping that Damon would take one of these 2 to make things easier on me. But you know what? If I'm looking at movies if I'm going to base this on, this villain has been in a movie that I've rewatched more that I think is technically a better movie, one of the best, if not the best solo. I mean, if you count, No Way Home, obviously is probably the best solo and most beloved solo movie of Phase 4. But just pure origin story, good solo movie, classic hero getting it on, doing his thing. Shang-Chi's villain, give me Wenwu. Tony Leung, another great. I've got 2 iconic villain performances with Cate Blanchett and Tony Leung right here. So
damn you, Adam.
Is that were you going for Wenwu next?
I was going for Wenwu, bro. That was gonna be my next one.
No, that was and I'm sure the other choice that I guess I just spoiled that it was a guy, but the other choice that I was deciding between was this was really tough. It's really half 6 one way, half a dozen the other. But yeah, I think Wenwu. Every time I watch Shang-Chi, I'm just blown away by how great Tony Leung's performance is. So I guess that's pretty much how TJ, I asked you for the rules for this before, if this was, because when we do Marvel Madness, it's less, the best characters and more just who's the strongest. So I was like, are we doing that here? Because I think that would have been much less fun here because we would have been drafting boring characters that were way down near the bottom. So I guess my only criteria here was just performance, but also these are really Hela and Wenwu were 2 really well-written characters that I think we've got here. So, and 2 great villains, ultimately meet a sad demise, both of them. But, that's what happens. Not all villains get their iconic, great redemption arc in the end and then get to live happily ever after, do these things. Sometimes they just die in the end. Sometimes bad shit happens to good villains, and that's what happened to both of mine. But with Hela and Wenwu, I'm pretty confident where I'm at with Hela and Wenwu is just 2 really good MCU villains.
Great pick. I clearly you got the Fat Thor's guy off the board here. That's who he was looking for with the next one. It sounds like I'm torn between two here personally. Do I want to go with my favorite of my two options, or do I want to go with a little bit of firepower? And even though Damon's second pick sucked, he did inspire me to get a little bit of Avengers firepower on the team, and I'm going with Ultron with my next pick here. He, even though the movie is probably considered the worst Avengers movie, which it's a pretty high bar because the Avengers movies are pretty spectacular. Ultron was an incredibly menacing villain. You expand his stuff into What If, it goes as well. It gets even more menacing, but Ultron is going to be my second round pick.
So you're going with base Ultron.
Just Ultron.
Which Ultron?
All of them. You get one Ultron. It's just that's all that's going on the graphic is Ultron.
Okay. If it includes, I'm just saying, if it included Infinity Ultron, absolutely, because base Ultron
It's all
base Ultron had control over everything for like 48 hours.
It's not who's the best, most powerful. It's who were the most captivating as we watching them, the coolest ones. So
he wants the guy that's quoting.
That's a
He
great
wants
one
the
of the reasons
guy.
why, Damon, that Strange Supreme was a terrible second pick.
He wants the guy that's quoting Pinocchio.
Hey.
How many
James
people
Spader crushed that role.
watch? I get James Spader crushing the role, and my guy Ross Marquand, who is a friend of the show, multiple time interviewee of the Agents of Fandom. That's an easy, great second round pick.
I say I'll
Okay,
always
Mr.
die on the
Strange
hill.
Supreme.
I'll always die on the hill that no matter how you feel about that movie, James Spader is amazing as Ultron.
Crushes it.
Right? Yes.
It's a great movie. They just have a few weird things that they didn't know where the MCU story was going yet, and so they threw in there that didn't really make sense.
Yeah, I love it. I'm an Age of Ultron.
I say I love it.
So you're not going to get any pushback from me.
Vision, dude. Come on. The birth of Vision. Let's.
Damon's upset. Damon is upset. Fat Thor, first pick, last pick of the second round, and then first pick of the third round.
Okay, so I probably should have asked this at the top because I feel like this could be debated, but my first thought I want to go with is Goblin, Green Goblin. But does that count since it's technically like from the Raimi-verse? That counts?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Absolutely.
Green Goblin. Gotta go. I mean, come on. William Dafoe, like, it doesn't get much better than that. And I mean, he brought our boy Spidey down a bunch of pegs. And I mean, he, again, talking about, we just had Deadpool Wolverine, which was like kind of like a send-off to all those movies. And it's like, he was one of the OG Marvel villains. And I mean, just such a great actor. So I gotta go Goblin.
Good pick. Very good pick. Willem Dafoe's performance was incredible. It was a great movie and fun little wrestling style fights between the two of them. You got your back-to-back picks here. First pick in the third round. Who you going 9th overall?
Oof, this is hard. I'm going to have to go with... I'm going to go with Namor. I mean... I mean, dude, Tanakh, I forget his last name, but absolutely, again, crushed it. Such a good, so good in that role. And, the first mutant, Namor as a character is just so freaking cool. I love the way that they portrayed, like, his powers and the whole, Wakanda versus Atlantis stuff. It's just all great. So I got to go with Namor.
First pick, I was choosing between Killmonger and Loki. Seems like Damon and I were on the same wavelength. And now Adam and Fat Thor with the Namor and the Wenwu stuff, they're in the same brain space. It's kind of fun when you get that with drafts. I love anytime somebody picks another person's character. Namor goes 9th overall. Back to me with my third round pick. I am thankful because I was choosing between Ultron and this other character. and I'm going with this one. It's tough because they haven't been a villain for the majority of their time in the MCU, but when they're a hero, they're one of my favorites, and when they were a villain, my goodness, it was the most terrifying villain, I think, in the history of the MCU so far. I'm going Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch.
Two of my, those were my next two. Oh,
I'm honestly so happy because I thought you were gonna say someone else, and I'll tell you can take Scarlet.
Oh man,
I might take that person before you get to pick again, Fat Thor. I might.
Don't even.
I know who you're talking. Yeah, I know who y'all are talking about, right?
Adam, back to you, my friend. Back to you here with your second last pick in third round. You've been snatched back to back here. Who do you got?
That is the like literally. I was just getting ready to. If you passed it to me without taking Wanda, I was going to be like, well, we all need a votes pick at some point. So give me the Scarlet Witch, baby, because nobody's got a bigger fan base than Wanda Maximoff. So that was like that's a 10 out of 10 because she will get you so many votes just because people love Wanda. But oh my God, between you two snatching Namor and snatching the Scarlet Witch, that really it threw a wrench in things, but it also it kind of gave me a clear path. Like I don't really have a choice anymore because it's like now one person above the rest that I was going to take. Another Phase 4 villain, or wait, yeah, Phase 4, or no, maybe Phase 5 if I'm not mistaken. That I don't remember the last time I watched a Marvel movie where from start to finish, like going back to my theme of the last time with no redemption arc, that I despised this character until the end of the movie. No redeeming qualities, and another great performance. You know, somebody that has worked with James Gunn on both sides of the aisle. Give me the High Evolutionary because I absolutely loathed this man for the entire and watching him torture animals, just be a general asshole to every single person in the movie, everybody that he interacts with, he's just evil. It's another one of those like great villains in that, you know, people always say hate the character, don't hate the actor. We've seen so much of that. We talked about that this past Sunday. TJ, Fat Thor, you and I, and Caesar and Zen and Dennis did on Council of Fire. So many people hating, like Fabian. I know I'm going off on a little Game of Thrones tangent, but so many people hated Fabian Franklin. We're sending him death threats, the guy that plays Sir Kristen Cole. And it's like, don't do that to any actor because they're just playing a character. And it's like, I would obviously never do anything like that. But like in terms of like characters, I'm like, oh my God, I hate this guy so much. And that's a testament to how good the guy playing him is. Apologies because I'm absolutely blanking on his name. I can't remember the guy.
Another sneaky two-time Agents of Fandom interviewee. My very first roundtable ever in this industry was for Peacemaker. And I got to interview Chakudi Awuji there. And then, of course, the Guardians of the Galaxy Canadian premiere, in addition to Sean Gunn, Ryan Cortero got to interview Chakudi as well.
Good shot. And thank you so much for reminding me of his name because I was trying to, again, vamp and see if it could come to me. And and my phone wasn't loading. Of course, I'm trying to pull up my IMDb as quick as I can. It's just not loading. But yeah, Chakudi Awuji is the High Evolutionary, just somebody that I hated. From the time we saw the trailers of him and then like getting to see him torture Rocket and do all those kinds of things, like there's no better way to make me hate a character than show him torturing the baby version of a character that I love. So absolutely menacing, terrifying villain. Hated him from start to finish. Give me the High Evolutionary.
Great pick. Damon, back to you for the final pick of the third round. You got the highest value pick in the first round, followed by the lowest value pick in the second round. Who do you got in the third?
I was holding my breath that entire third round because the second after I said Strange Supreme, I'm like, ooh, I just thought of someone better. And I'm holding my breath, and y'all are going through your picks, and I got good news for myself because he's still available.
Someone better? You mean the whole draft board?
Give me the Kingpin.
I knew it.
York.
I had it typed out already. I had it typed out in the chat to put it in. Of course you're picking the villain from Hawkeye.
And the villain from Echo.
Echo,
he had a phenomenal. Exactly. He had a phenomenal, like the type of level that we saw from the Daredevil show, which isn't included, obviously, in this ranking, obviously.
But it will be in people's minds.
It will be in people's minds. But that was the type of performance that we saw from Daredevil in Echo. We only got a taste of it, just a little sliver of it in Hawkeye, and it was more of a goofy side of Kingpin, which is fine. It fit the show. So I absolutely had to pick him. And now, I don't know who I'm going to pick after that. Actually, I'm just kidding. Yes, I do. It's Agatha, please.
Agatha Harkness. Very fun. Obviously, with our own show coming out, Agatha all along. Why are you picking Agatha?
Agatha's just a fun villain, part of that Phase 4, part of the TV show aspect, and she's an... God, did she get a Grammy for that, by the way? How many MCU villains can we say are Grammy Award winners?
It was nominated. I don't know if they...
Or at least Grammy Award nominees. We can't say that many. Agatha's iconic at this point. She really is. Catherine Hahn has played an iconic villain in Agatha Harkness. If you told me I would say that like 10 years ago, I'd laugh in your face. But it's true. She's iconic at this point.
Absolutely true. And Catherine Hahn is a really big reason for that. So shout out to her as well. I got 3 people left on my list, Adam. You can't possibly steal them all.
So before we loaded up this podcast, the first thing that popped into my mind was I would love for a group of guys like us to team up and do some good, as a famous villain once said. So a guy who a great that didn't earn the fact that didn't earn a reaction from any of you, I'm a little disappointed in that, because I'm like, that was a good one.
No, it's a good one.
I'm muted, but I loved it.
Okay. My ego needed that. Thank you, Damon and TJ. My ego needed that. But a villain who started out, we've only gotten to see him one, and I guess this only counts one. He only counts as one because we've seen him, once in the MCU. But the villain in one of the best MCU movies that I think a lot of people like, but I don't think quite gets enough credit for how good it is, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Give me Vulture, Michael. I'm just like wiping the floor in terms of like performances. Like I'm snatching up all the villains that have given some of the best performances in MCU history. The whole car scene where Adrian Toomes realizes that like Peter is Spider-Man, and he's like looking at him in the rearview mirror, and he says like, "You leave my operation alone, or I'll kill you. I'll kill your family, and I'll kill everyone you've ever cared about." That's like I rewatched Spider-Man Homecoming in the theaters when Sony did this big 100-year thing. They released all the Spider-Man movies. That I didn't get to see Far From Home. I did go see No Way Home, but getting to see Homecoming again in theaters and like relive Michael Keaton's performance on the big screen, absolutely 10 out of 10. I think he's also just a generally terrifying villain. Another one that up until the very end, another theme on my list, I just hated him up until the very end, caused himself to die, and then, ultimately somehow blasted himself into another universe. And maybe now he'll be teaming up with Morbius to take on Madam Web and Venom and whatever the fuck else. Kraven the Hunter, whatever the fuck else they have going on over there. Who knows? I hope they don't taint his legacy in Spider-Man Homecoming by doing some bullshit like that. But no, I think Vulture's a great, but this is another, there was like 3 or 4 that I was deciding between here that I think are probably at least one or two, at least one of them is going to go, I think, in these last 2 picks. But yeah, give me Vulture. I'll round out the last of my team. I got a Thor villain, I got a Guardians villain, I got a Shang-Chi villain. Now I got to take a Spider-Man villain to close things out.
Great choice. I'm finishing things off for me here with the guy with the best dance moves in the MCU, Baron Helmut Zemo, of course, did a great job. Speaking of fantastic performances in Captain America Civil War, both sides were wrong. Both sides had good points and both sides had bad points, but he played them against each other perfectly. Does a great job when he comes back in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Hope we get to see him again. I'm going with Baron Zemo as my final choice. Fat Thor, last pick of the draft. Who are you going with?
First off, I gotta say Zemo's a great pick because I think a lot of people underestimate what Zemo actually did. And I mean, if you think about it, he broke the Avengers up, and they probably would not have lost in Infinity War if it not had been for that. So I just want to say I love that pick. But I am going with I can't believe no one picked this already. And when you said Scarlet Witch, this is what put it on my radar. But Winter Soldier, Bucky. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. Like Sebastian Stan is an MCU staple at this point. He's great as both hero and villain. But I mean, his performance as the Winter, like before he, got unmind wiped, so freaking good. I still think about that bridge scene to this day. Like the music, it's so good. So I got to go Winter Soldier.
Let's before we tally up and go over our picks again, we'll go over a few notable omissions by us here. There was one person left on my list that I wanted to maybe consider that we didn't pick, and that was Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio. I think that was a really awesome performance in Far From Home. Far From Home to me is the most. I mean, it's hard to rank because I think it's got like a 97% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. But if you let Twitter tell you it's near the bottom of everyone's MCU rankings. But I absolutely love Far From Home. I think it is one of the best third acts in the entire MCU. Gore the God Butcher. I think Christian Bale was probably the best part of Thor Love and Thunder. And that movie would have been genuinely, I think, was about 20 to 30 minutes more of gore stuff away from being a very, very good MCU movie. He was criminally underutilized, but Gore was absolutely fantastic. No Kang the Conqueror for probably pretty obvious reasons. No Ego. Alexander Pierce. No MODOK. Shout out to
Red
Fat
Skull
Thor.
Was one of mine. I was thinking Red Skull.
Red Skull as well.
So
Grandmaster.
Hugo Weaving. Come on.
Mm-hmm. Grandmaster's another, like, he's a little silly. Like,
one.
obviously, Hella's the ultimate one, but like Grandmaster was on my board too.
Yeah, another one that I think is absolutely deserves consideration. Let's go over our picks. Fat Thor, you were first. Who's your team?
I got Thanos, Goblin, Namor, and Winter Soldier.
That's a good team.
All right.
I have pretty solid.
That's the fun part about 16 is like this is loaded. There are 16 great villains in the MCU, more than that. So our teams are pretty loaded. Mine is Killmonger, Ultron, the Scarlet Witch, and Zemo. How about you, Adam?
I got Hela, Wenwu, the High Evolutionary, and Vulture. But as I say that out loud, the thing that I think my team is missing that all of your teams have is that big hitter. Like Thor, you have you've got Thanos, Damon, you've got Loki, and TJ, you've got Killmonger, and I feel like those are regarded as like I don't think Hela is thought. I'm afraid I'm going to get wiped. Even though I love my team, I fear I'm going to get wiped in the voting.
Damon, what's your team?
I got Loki, I got Strange, I got Kingpin, and I got Agatha.
A very fun edition of the MCU Villains Draft. We'll be posting this on socials for our fans and our followers to vote. So make sure you're following the Agents of Fandom on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. And then make sure you're following the Agents of Fandom on YouTube. Hit the like button and notification bell if you're watching us right now over on YouTube, and subscribe to the Agents of Fandom wherever you get your podcasts, because you not only get us, but you get the Comic Corner as well. And even though Council of Fire has winded down, come to a close, Fat Thor and I are cooking up potentially something else for you Rings of Power fans as well. So stay tuned for that. And Comic Corner just released a brand new episode yesterday at the time that this releases. So make sure you check that one out. And we will be back next week with our breakdown of everything Marvel Studios releases at D23. And then I believe we're going to have another fun little draft coming up after. So stay tuned for all of that. We got a lot of fun stuff coming on behalf of myself, Adam, Damon, Fat Thor, all the Agents of Fandom. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you again next week. Peace.
Peace.